What's up? Hey, hello, everyone. Wow. So today we are back going to be talking about Survivor season 44, episode 5. We got the squad back together this week. So my name is Rachel.
I'm Alyssa, and yeah, this week I don't have COVID, which is great for me. So, very excited to be back.
Yeah, if you watched last week, I was solo dolo. Alyssa was out sick. So excited to be back to hear all of her takes. Anything from last week that you wanted to bring up, Alyssa, since you did not get the chance to speak on episode 4?
Rachel, your episode last week was so perfect that I would just be reading if I had anything to it. So, no takes from last week. You did a great.
Thanks. Yeah, I literally thought it was so funny. Last week I said, okay, Survivor, hopefully they're not going to spoil who goes home next week in the preview on last week's episode. But alas, that is pretty much exactly what they did here. It's really, really sad for Matthew to be taken out of the game for any reason, people that get med-evac, people that have to leave for emergencies. Just sucks because for a lot of these people, it is their dream to be on Survivor. So it just sucks to go out when you're not being voted out.
Yeah, and we talked with a bunch of other Survivor people last night over on Wrestle Muscle TV's channel, and the subject of whether or not we would like to see Matthew come back came up. So if you guys are interested in hearing what we have to say about the entire pre-merge, along with some other Survivor YouTubers, go and check that out.
Yeah, definitely check that out. We'll link it down below after this podcast airs. It also just sucks for Matthew because it's what we said episode 1. He realized he was doing something dangerous. So it's good that at least he realized what he was doing was dangerous. But now he's just facing the consequences of those actions. But it does seem like from the exit interviews, he had to have a lot of surgeries. Like this was not just oops, your shoulder came out, it was dislocated and it just popped back in, but multiple surgeries, going to physical therapy. So it's been a long, hard road, it seems, which is good that he's working through it, but honestly, so terrible that that had to happen even in the first place.
Yeah, and it's a good thing that he left the game when he did because, like he said, he needs food and stuff in order to be able to heal. So
Exactly. This really reminded me of B leaving David versus Goliath and a lot of people giving her hate like, "Oh, you're a quitter, you can't leave because of an injury that isn't an injury or has the potential to get worse." And a lot of people saying that she's a quitter, but very similar thing here. Like B is a professional athlete. You need your shoulder for a lot of things. If you don't have range of motion in your shoulder, you can't really do a lot. And Matthew works and has that hairdresser business. He probably needs range of motion in his arms. So I don't know. It's good that people are starting to realize now, okay, if you're injuring yourself in the game, it's not worth it to continue to push that injury to potentially have some kind of lifelong arm, shoulder, leg, ankle damage. Like the game isn't worth it. So it's good that Matthew here leave the game and they're not going to put their body at risk for potential lifelong injury.
yeah, but I think that also kind of brings up the question of should the Survivor doctors be a little bit more aggressive about pulling people from the game? Because, I feel like if B had been pulled and not elected to leave herself, she wouldn't have gotten hate because it would have been she was pulled from the game. She didn't have any choice in that. And I feel like with Matthew, he could have started resting 8 days ago when he first got injured if the Survivor team had been a little bit more proactive and been like, this is a really bad injury, we should pull you so that you can start healing.
Yeah. So it's really sad to see Matthew go. He, from the edit, seems to be one of the main people on the orange team, someone who had his finger in a lot of pies, working a lot of different people, hiding fake idols, using the shot in the dark strategically, getting Brandon to flush the idol, building these relationships with Kane and Carson. And sort of said it last night, though, weirded out by Jeff being so smiley in all of these scenes. From one of Matthew's exit interviews, he was saying, yeah, he and medical had talked before the challenge, and then they said, okay, we're going to have another conversation after the challenge so we can get it on camera. So it's like that conversation we saw with all of them was like not even the first time that had happened, but then Jeff is like there. I don't know. It's just sort of weird to see.
Yeah, sometimes I'm like, does Jeff even really need to be in these moments? But whatever.
Also, sort of sad that we never got to see Matthew leave. Apparently, he left the game right after that challenge, so he didn't get to go back to camp. He didn't get to go and say bye, which when I was watching the episode on Wednesday, I didn't have time to like stay after the last commercial break to watch the previews and the final words. So I was like, "Oh dang, he literally just disappeared." Sort of odd that they wouldn't show any kind of goodbye, but he did get those final words at the end of the episode, which was nice, but sort of sucks he didn't at least get to go back to the tribe to explain the situation and leave. He just disappeared.
Yeah, I mean, I think they probably had an idea of what was happening. If they did talk before the challenge, I'm sure that his tribe like heard at least some of it, or at least knew that he was talking to medical. So I'm sure they could guess what happened, but I would have liked to see like a hug goodbye or something.
Yeah, they could guess what happened that he was medevaced, or it's like Squid Game and he's executed out in the corner. You just didn't know where he went to. But because he didn't get to go back to camp, now it's confirmed. Okay, Matthew didn't give his idol away to anyone. He was saying, yeah, maybe he would have given it to Kane because they were close. So as a alliance mate, I'll give it to Kane. But then he also said if he wanted to maybe put a target on someone's back, he would give it to either Carson or Lauren on his team. So I do sort of wish he got to go back to camp to say goodbye and potentially pass on the idol or do other tricky things like that, because we've seen Matthew's got a good brain for the game. He was doing very innovative things out there. It would have been interesting to see what he was going to do if he could go back to camp.
Yeah. But you know, I think we also would it be fair if he got to like pass on his idol? Would it be fair if he got to like blow up people's games? Stuff like that, where if he knew it was a potential that he would go home, he should have thought of that before he left for the challenge.
True. Then it brings up the like rule in Australian Survivor essay where they could pass along idols after they were voted out at tribal council. The rule has changed now in the foreign Survivor seasons, but that was a wild time when you could literally be voted out. Your torch was about to get snuffed and you could give your idol away. I feel like that is not fair.
Yeah.
But speaking of, we see Carson and Kane, they're bonding. They're the nerds aligning. I thought this was a really funny and cute scene. We saw Kane a couple weeks ago nerding out with the sword and like talking about D&D, doing these role-playing games. And now we see Carson and Kane come together as like the younger guys on the tribe, the nerdy dudes on the tribe. So it was cute to see.
Yeah, I just think it's always cute to see like genuine connections in the game and just see people, you know, find people like them. And I think that's another thing that kind of happens later in the episode where two people who are very similar find connection. So I think that's one of the best parts of Survivor is just seeing how, you know, people interact, those character moments.
Exactly. I think this could set us up this episode truly seeing like Kane and Carson bond here, Danny and Brandon bond later in the episode, which we'll get to. I could definitely see come merge. We could see like a nerds versus bros alliance where Kane, Carson, Matt, and Franny definitely like those four all young, they're similar age demographics. They all are like self-identified nerds. We've seen Matt and Franny nerding out as well on Green, and now we're seeing Carson and Kane do similar over here. I could definitely see those four totally bond, and then maybe they're going to bring in like Carolyn and Jam Jam because Carolyn doesn't want to work with the bros, and then maybe Carolyn and Jam Jam could link back up with Carson.
Yeah, so I would love like a jocks versus nerds, a brain versus brawn, if you will. Just I think that there definitely is kind of shaping up to be those two distinct groups of people. So that's going to be fun.
Exactly. So we also see Jam Jam and Josh. They sort of fight over what happened last week's episode, but then they also bond. I feel like it was good for Josh here. He's trying to play both sides. He's still trying to pit Carolyn and Jam Jam against each other. So if Tico went to tribal again, hopefully he would be safe. Trying to keep Carolyn Jam Jam fighting opposite sides, but really, I guess similar to when Josh was on green, thinking he was the swing vote, here, not really the swing vote, but it's truly Carolyn or Jam Jam as a swing vote. But in a three-person tribe, like everyone's a swing vote technically. Everyone's so fluid.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting to see like the evolution of Yum Yums and Josh's relationship this episode, because like it got worse and then it kind of got better and then it kind of got worse again when Josh tried to pass off a bunch of beads from Tree Mail as an idol. I think that was kind of when he lost all credibility and maybe was going to go home this episode if Matthew hadn't been medevac. So
I agree. I think it was a very nice scene where we saw Jam Jam and Josh talk about being gay men, coming out to their families or not coming out to their families. So that was a very nice bonding moment for them.
yeah, I also like that Yum Yum was kind of like, oh, I never really came out. Like, we need we need that representation.
So we see at the immunity challenge, you are tied together. You have to go through obstacles. You fill up a water bucket in order to lower a gate, and then you do a ball table maze at the end. I wonder if this is the same ball table maze in one of Peridium's hack videos. This is the potentially the one where Michaela hacked, where basically the two people there, you don't need both people like moving it around, but one person on one side tries to stay still and they only the other person maneuvers the table maze. I wonder if people were going to use that strategy, if they could have used that for this table maze, and if it would have helped people, because maybe it would have helped like Josh and Jam Jam with Josh's steady doctor hands. It might have been helpful because they were struggling on that table maze.
Yeah, they were really struggling. It's hard with this immunity challenge because like it's hard to feel like it mattered because it didn't really, because no one ended up having to go to tribal. So
I guess in hindsight doesn't really matter. In foresight, you're like, everything counts here because they didn't know that there would be no tribal coming up this evening. But orange, they get first, green gets second, and then purple gets last. And so because orange is first, they get to pick the people going on the journey. They pick Brandon from their tribe, Danny from green, and then Carolyn from purple. I do wish, like I said last week, we would have gotten some strategy here. Specifically, why did they choose these people? I guess we sort of got an inkling. Oh, yeah, we just like Danny. He looks cool. Let's pick him. But, like, why did they pick Carolyn over the two men on purple? That kind of thing. It was also interesting because these three are the people that had first opened the birdcage and got the birdcage idols. So it's like, dang, they picked the three that had idols.
yeah, I do think like the whole strategy of just like we like Danny felt very strange to me because like I don't know, just Lauren being the one to be like we like Danny. I was like, you're not even going. Why does it matter who likes? So
Yeah, maybe it's something from like the Matt chats that we don't see on screen that he just gives off good vibes. That's why people like him. So maybe to verbalize that as strategy is sort of hard to say. But I just wish we got some of the strategy picks behind why these people were picked. Same as last week. Why are
yeah.
certain people picked?
I wonder like how much of that is actually like filmed. You know, like it might be kind of a group decision where you say like, oh, you just throw out a name and then you try to get people to all agree on a name even if there's no strategy. Like it might just be the strategy is no one opposed, Danny, or no one opposed Carolyn. So
Yeah, the strategy could just be as simple as that person looks cool. So let's go meet them. But we get to the journey. I liked this journey a lot. No advantages. You just chat. You get to see these relationships form and their conversations. For all of the other journeys, even though the sign says, yeah, get to know the person while you're going on the hike, all of those conversations pretty much get cut. So this was nice. Okay, we got like 10 minutes of the conversations of people bonding and talking and relating on different things compared to other journey trips where the convos get cut out.
Yeah. The one like funny thing about this journey is that like almost immediately Carolyn just gets ignored. And it's so funny because they're like, oh, we're so glad to be here. You know, people like us don't normally get very far. And Carolyn's like, huh? Because she is not one of the big buff dudes like Danny. And it's just, yeah.
It was weird. It's like, okay, is this like lack of social awareness and social game from Danny and Brandon here? Like, okay, yeah, this is bad in the game of Survivor. This is bad in real life. Like, if you're three friends hanging out, you never want to exclude one person from your hangout completely like that. You would want them to be brought into the conversation. So, like, whether Survivor or not, this was just sort of weird. In Survivor, it's extra odd. Like, wouldn't you want to keep those bonds, get to know someone? They just really assumed that she was going to get voted out that night, that okay, she's already walking away, so we don't even need to waste our energy to bond with her. It's just such a bad play in real life in this game to exclude someone completely like this, ignoring her, not including her in the conversation, not including her in future plans. It's like so awkward.
It's so weird too because some of the stuff that they're talking about also applies to Carolyn. Like they
Mm-hmm.
were broing out about their tattoos, and I was like, you know, else who else has tattoos? Like even if you think Carolyn's getting voted out, even if you think that you don't want to work with her strategically, like what benefit do you gain from just ignoring her? So yeah,
Carolyn's got a nice sleeve too. Like
right?
she could have talked about those tattoos. Yeah, it was like a odd scene. Maybe it's a little bit bad for Carolyn to constantly be saying, "Oh, am I included in this? What do you mean by that?" Sort of like drawing attention to her being excluded from this conversation. But I feel like if you were in that situation, you would probably also be super annoyed like, "Yo, these dudes are completely not talking to me, like WTF." But I do wonder, like, did the guys even notice that she wasn't being included in the conversation, or were they just so like one track mind? I love this dude. Let's bond with him. We have so much in common. Let's just keep talking about ourselves and bond. Did they not even notice Carolyn not really contributing or able to contribute to the conversation?
The one thing that I thought was good about Carolyn, like pointing these things out, is that if it was legitimately they were just so excited to like meet each other for the first time that it was just like a social faux pas and not intentional, like it did give both of the boys kind of a chance to like be like, oh yeah, sorry, Carolyn. Like, let's bring you into this conversation now. But the
Mm.
fact that it happened like repeatedly made it seem more intentional, where it's kind of like you always want to give someone grace and not assume that they're like excluding you from a conversation like on purpose. So yeah.
And then Brandon says, "Oh, Carolyn, people are going to keep you around come merge because you haven't proven yourself as a physical threat. You're not a physical threat." And I was like, "Oh, question mark by this because they were talking about, okay, people like us don't win, aka like big muscly dudes like us don't win the game." But I feel like what Brandon's saying, yeah, Carolyn, you're not big and muscly looking, that just is like going to show, okay, this is why people like you don't win the game, because you can't downplay your threat levels, physical threat, other kinds of threat levels, which Carolyn is able to downplay with her kooky, unique attitude and personality. So it's like, Brandon, you should be wanting to target Carolyn. You literally saying that she's going to be safe come merge because she's not a physical threat should make you want her gone, not like keep her safe, because you want to vote those people out if you wanted to make like a meat shield alliance with the other big men.
Yeah, it just I don't really understand what's going on, but you know, I wish that we had gotten more because we did get to see Carolyn's kind of like indignation at being left out. But I wish we had gotten to see more from Brandon and Danny. That wasn't just like being like, oh, I was so excited to see the other dude. Like, I wish that we had gotten some, like, I
Mm,
know that it looks bad that I wasn't talking to Carolyn, but here's my reasoning.
mhm.
Because otherwise, you kind of just have to assume the worst.
Yeah, I do wonder, like I said, like, was it just, okay, accidental, they're so excited to meet one another, or I don't know, it could just be like one track minded. Oh, we're so excited. They don't even realize someone else is there with them, which I mean, probably happens a lot in real life convos. So this whole conversation definitely represents stuff that happens in the real world.
Yeah, for sure. But, like, you know, maybe we should be better than the real world.
So I feel like this journey could have been very, very bad for Josh because Danny brings up Josh's name when Danny and Brandon are talking about a guys alliance come merge. They're like, yeah, I'll bring in Josh XYZ, you bring in, whoever you have over there, Brandon. And this was just sort of interesting because like a few weeks ago, we saw Danny saying, yeah, we're voting Josh out. He's in the middle. I'm closest to Heidi. We're going to team up with the showmance, and Josh is not the swing vote. We're getting rid of him. So it really is interesting because by Danny saying, yeah, I'll bring in Josh, whether they're close or not, sort of could have effed over Josh here, where now Carolyn wants to target Josh because she thinks Josh is going to be in this bro alliance, whether he is or not. So I'm really interested to see next week, okay, where does Josh go? Is he going to realize that the boys don't really actually want to work with him? Or is he going to go back with the guys and go with Danny and the other men and like create this bro alliance? Because back on green, Josh thought he was the swing vote, so he might not know that these people are playing him.
Yeah. The bro alliance might happen just because it has to happen in order for Josh to, like, stick around. So,
Another interesting thing, Carolyn tells them that Josh, Jamie, and Carson have expiring idols, basically saying, yeah, Josh had this idol, so Jamie, Carson probably have these idols. Doesn't really matter now, though, because the merge, the fake merge is happening next week, so it does seem like the idols expire next week. But because these are, real looking idols, but now they are expired, they have no power. I wonder if like Jamie or Carson could try to play them off as real idols, or maybe they use them as potential fake idols or rehide them. I feel like having these idols that look pretty good can come up again later, and you can use it to maneuver in the game.
yeah, I feel like the fact that there's already production made fake idols makes using an expired idol as a fake idol a little bit more difficult. It's hard because now there's like 800 fake idols, and it's kind of
Yeah.
like, bruh, I do not need this in my life.
And I loved the episode title. It was called The Third Turd. And it's perfect for two different reasons. Carolyn says, I don't want to be the third turd at the top of the episode when she's referring to Jam Jam and Sarah bonding. And that's why she voted Sarah out. And then it relates perfectly to being the third wheel here at the journey and being the third turd with Danny and Brandon bonding. And it also relates back to her kids' poop and digging for the tooth.
Yeah, so Carolyn really, she's a genius with words. So,
So we see Josh. He has this fake idol. He thinks this is what's going to save me. He goes and shows Jam Jam, Carolyn, yeah, I have this idol. Don't vote for me. You can't vote me out tonight. This was a funny scene. They're like, bro, what is this? This is the exact same parchment you showed me last week. You don't think I read it? Jam Jam's like, yo, why is it falling apart in my hands? Josh is like, stop, let me take it back.
yeah, I feel like not showing them the idol would have been better than showing them a fake idol because now they both kind of know that it's a fake idol because they both are suspicious. So I feel like if he had just continued to be like, yeah, I do have another idol, I still don't think it would have worked because both of them, I don't know, immediately finding an idol after you use an idol, especially when I don't think we ever saw any montage of Josh looking like, I see why they were suspicious, but I feel like showing them the real fake idol was just a nail in the coffin.
Yeah, or maybe he could have lied and said this idol that he has now is a birdcage idol and tried to play it off like that, and then maybe showed it or not showed it. But if he did show it still, oh, it looks a little bit different from Carolyn's birdcage idols. So it could be a red flag there. I just loved when Jam Jam and Carolyn were calling out the fake idol point blank, like literally to his face, and then also laughing at him in confessionals. I was like, dang, they really called him out here.
They really did. It was funny.
So I do hope that for Jam Jam and Carolyn's relationship, we saw a lot this episode. Jam Jam is sort of throwing Carolyn under the bus, saying he doesn't want to work with her anymore, saying, yeah, I'm going to vote her out tonight. I hope maybe it's a little bit of faking it and Carolyn and Jam Jam can come back together next week and work together in the merge and onwards. And Jam Jam was just playing it up when he was talking to Josh, like, yeah, me and you, Josh, we're going to vote her out, that kind of thing. And I do hope Jam Jam and Carolyn can come back together.
Yeah, I also feel like Jim Jim wants to come back with Carolyn, so I think that's the way things are going to go.
Yeah, so we see Jeff, he comes to camp and he says there's no tribal council. This was a sort of an odd scene too. It was sort of funny because the three of them were trying to be like, oh, so sad for Matthew being medevaced, but yay for us. They had to like balance that emotion of not trying to act so excited with the cameras on them that there's going to be no tribal council, but at the same time, they all feel so bad for Matthew from being pulled from the game. So it was like weird to see them go through all of those emotions in like 3 seconds.
Yeah, it's also kind of like they can't really show how excited they are to not have to go to tribal because that also looks bad as far as if the merge is coming, maybe you want to pretend that you're a strong three for whatever reason.
Yeah, so Josh basically gets saved here. Probably would have been the one voted out if they went to tribal council tonight, which Josh, lucky man. I feel like this goes to show how Survivor is, part luck. Josh could have easily went home here, but now he's going to make it one more day. He's going to make it to the fake merge where the game truly opens up. So, yeah, there's a luck part coming in here.
Yeah.
But hopefully these three can amend things because I feel like preparing to vote someone off and getting that close to going to tribal council, like there's going to be some rifts with your threesome, some cracks in your alliance because you already got the idea in your head to vote that person out. Like Carolyn literally says, yeah, Josh, I wanted to vote you out, so I'm bummed to not go to tribal council. So I feel like them preparing to go to tribal and not having to go is going to potentially be worse for them than if they went down to 2 people tonight because you have those fractures already from scheming behind one another's backs that it might be hard for them to actually come together and work together come merge.
Yeah. Again, that kind of depends on if they want to come together, work together, come merge, but I don't think that if they wanted to work together, it may not be an option anymore.
Yeah, I could see Carol and Jam Jam forming back together, but I don't really see Josh working with them come merge. I could definitely see him going back to his OG Tika people, at least maybe Danny and Heidi over there. Sort of similar, I feel like. Okay, they're preparing to vote someone out here. You get that idea in your head. Similar, like if you are thinking about breaking up with someone, you get that idea in your head, and then you really can't backtrack from there. Everything starts to annoy you after you get that little inkling in there. So I could see that here. Carolyn really wanted to vote Josh out. Now, whatever Josh does is going to rub Carolyn and peeve her off.
That is so true. But, you know, I think she at least has a good chance of getting Josh to go home. So it might be good for her in the long run.
Yeah, so I'm excited for the fake merge next week. We'll have to see what kind of things they're going to throw at us. Not another hourglass twist, so that's always good, but who knows? Maybe it'll be worse.
Maybe it'll be a real merge. Imagine that.
I don't think we have that much faith.
Yeah, so let us know what you thought in the comments down below about this episode. How sad are you to see Matt go home? What do you think about the ethics and responsibilities of the Survivor Doctor? Who do you think would have gone home if Carolyn, Yem Yem, and Josh had gone to tribal council? Let us know all that more in the comments down below, and we will see you guys next week with another episode.